The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Rams on Demand, Seat Giant, Throwback Joe, and now our new sponsor, Kayvon Webster's new LA food truck, Vibe 305, from South Beach to Sunset. Hashtag catch a vibe. For more information, check out vibe305.com today. Now enjoy the show.
Warner goes over the middle, juggles, caught. Oh, touchdown.
Sets up inside, and Leonard Little forced the fumble on the turf.
Everett goes deep, touchdown to Willie Anderson. And he doesn't even stop. He's headed for the locker room. The Rams win it.
To Marshall, Fall to the 20. Fall at the 10, he's going to score.
Ferragamo with a lot of time. Gets it to Roddy. He's going to go for a touchdown. Phil Olsen, number 72. The first one don't get you, the other one will. Merlin kind of slowed him up back in the backfield. 10, Gabriel going deep for Maslowski. Touchdown.
Here's the pitch to Dickerson outside to the left. He cuts it back into the end zone for the score.
Adjusting for it is Isaac Bruce. And Isaac Bruce threads his way for a touchdown.
Steven Jackson in the end zone. Game over.
It is caught by Dyson. Can he get in? No, he cannot. Mike Jones made the tackle. And the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast, Throwback Thursday Edition. I'm here with Tyoka Jackson, former Rams defensive lineman. How's it going, Tyoka?
I'm good, Jake. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, thank you. It was pretty awesome to have you on, and I appreciate how easy it was to contact you and get this thing going.
No problem, man. It's all good.
So, what have you been up to, post NFL?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I started my entrepreneurial career while playing in the league, getting ready for the day it was going to be over. You know, the job of being an NFL player is unique in that you don't know when it's over. You don't know when the day's coming. You just know it will be coming. And the smart folks are the ones who prepare for the day that it comes before it comes, because when it hits you, it's a little late. So I got started in business during my career, and it's just been an extension of that. I've gotten to the restaurant industry. I own a couple iHOPs in Washington, D.C., and also own real estate in Washington, D.C., and so I've just been furthering that and trying to grow up businesses and also doing some broadcasting for ESPN, calling college football games, which has kept me close to the game, and it's been a ton of fun, and which I've come to love.
I love it. I love the entrepreneurial nature. I think that's really cool, and I love when former NFL players and pretty much any former professional player in any sport, when they go that route, because I just think that's the coolest one. I think that's when you really everyone moves on to the next chapter in their life, but I think that's really the one that jumps out at me. Becoming business moguls and whatnot. Even if you're not going all the way to the top, it's just such a cool thing to basically chase dreams, because at the end of the day, you played football for a lot of years, but I'm sure there are things that you were thinking, like, as you mentioned, like, while you're playing, you're like, well, I definitely want to do this at some point, and now you have the opportunity to do it. So I applaud you for that, and I gotta say, I'm happy you said iHOP and not iHOP, because I was not a huge fan of that.
well, first of all, I appreciate the love you gave me, but no, man, the whole iHOP thing, it's always going to be iHOP, really. The iHOP deal was a temporary change to get everybody's attention and to focus on our burgers, because we've got great burgers, great fresh Angus beef burgers, 100% Angus beef. And so, people think of IHOP, just fly-be so, and rightfully so, as a breakfast spot, because we think we have the best pancakes in the world, and many others do too. But we have other things on the menu, and, you can come see us for dinner items as well throughout the day. And we wanted to get that burger promotion out there, and it's gotten a ton of attention. So I think it was a smart move by the parent company.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's really cool that you got iHops in DC that you own, because I definitely have to check that out and again support you, because iHop's pretty awesome.
You like pancakes, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you didn't like pancakes, I'm hanging up right now. I'm just telling you right now. You gotta love pancakes.
Who doesn't like pancakes, Tyoka? Come on.
Exactly. And so, we were fortunate to open the first IHOP ever in DC. And we'll be celebrating, honestly, our 10th year anniversary in a couple of weeks. So we're excited about that. July 27th will be our 10th anniversary. And next week is actually IHOP's 60th anniversary as a company. So we share the same born date. Our franchises or at least born month, I should say, were both created in the month of July. The entire company was created in July. And then obviously our franchise was created in July. So we own two of them, and it's been great, and we're super happy and super excited about celebrating our 10th year.
That's phenomenal. And I don't want to, talk too much about this, because obviously you got a lot to talk about and everything, but, it's funny because, like, when people try to tell me that, like, Waffle House is better, like, here's the thing, IHOP, I don't have to worry for my life when I'm in an IHOP parking lot. End of story. End of story. It's over.
I agree. You're not going to get any disagreement from me, buddy. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, like, folks that are listening, Google Waffle House if you don't believe me. Then Google IHOP.
Yeah. It's all right. That's just one of the things that differentiate us. I mean, obviously, I think our food is a ton better. Not that, I do too. Waffle House doesn't serve decent waffles, but, I mean, look, we got Belgian waffles. Their waffles are a little flat. They don't even serve pancakes. So, and our menu's a lot bigger, and I'm sure they do well for what their core guests are looking for. But, I think what we serve is we're family friendly. We really have a lot of items for kids. And then we also have a great, simple and fit menu, which is a part of what we do. You can't really get items that are lower in cholesterol and fat and calories on most of these companies' menus, but that's something that separates us, I think, is our simple and fit. We can get things that for folks who have diabetic issues, who are trying to lower their cholesterol or what have you, we've got something for them too. So that was one of the reasons why, we decided to go with the IHOP brand when we were looking into the restaurant issue, just because of the varied menu and all the selections. There's a little bit for everybody.
I love it, man. And I mean, I got an IHOP that's literally like 2 minutes away from my house in Clifton Park. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So it's pretty awesome. I applaud you for that. But moving on. What made you want to play in the NFL even before all this? Like there has to be something
that made me want to play in the league. You said?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, my goal was to get a scholarship. I never had a goal of playing in the National Football League growing up, because I thought it was just honestly beyond my wildest dreams. So, I'm sort of a realist and always kind of been that way since I was young, and felt that, it was a realistic goal for me was to try to go to a large university, state university, and not have my parents pay for tuition. And so that was my goal throughout high school. And, I was able to accomplish that, and that was big for me. But I am competitive. And so also when I signed with Penn State, I decided that I made a commitment to myself for two things. One, I was going to graduate, which I did, and I'm super happy about that. But also, I was not going to go and disappear. A lot of players, I'm sure, your listeners can think about local stars who were great high school players who sort of went to some of these schools and you never heard from them again. And I just was determined not to be that guy. I wanted to be on television so that my family could see me play. If my immediate family wasn't in the stands, they could watch it. But even if they were, my extended family could watch it on television. And so that was that was big for me. And so when I got on campus, I sort of had a chip on my shoulder that I was going to show that I was better than they thought. Because I wasn't the most highly recruited guy. I wasn't in their top 2 or 3 recruits in that class. And so once I got there and started, having success in practice as a redshirt freshman against our starters, and then later that spring, those starters were getting drafted in the National Football League, I said, well, you know what? Maybe I do have a shot. I'm just a freshman, and I'm beating some of these guys in one-on-one drills and even in team drills, and they're now getting drafted into the National Football League and starting. And so I slowly began to modify my goal list and to ratchet it up. And the NFL became something that I wanted to do, that I thought was actually possible. And so that sort of began my idea of trying to make it to the National Football League. Probably around my sophomore year, I began to make it a realistic goal and began to feel like, all right, I'm going to make this happen. It's going to happen. And that's sort of how it started.
I love it. And I was going to touch on, how you, what made you end up choosing Penn State to go to school. And, it's crazy. As I'm thinking about this, you're the third Penn State alum that I've had, on this Throwback Thursday edition. Like, I've started this, I've had like 9 interviews. 3 of them, Penn State. You,
how about that?
Jimmy Kennedy, Irv Pankey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great list, too.
Yeah.
That's a great list. I know all those names. Obviously, I played with Jimmy in St. Louis, but and I have known of Irv for years. He's one of the better offensive linemen, right, that's come through Penn State. But, I grew up loving Penn State. Being from Maryland, Penn State would come in and raid Maryland for its best talent. That's been going back decades. And so, I grew up loving them. And it all started actually with a bet between my dad and I when Penn State was playing Georgia for the national championship. I want to say it was maybe 81, maybe. I just loved Herschel Walker. Thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and nobody could beat him. And my dad was already a Penn State fan before that national championship game, and so we had a little bet. I was rooting for Georgia. He was rooting for Penn State, and I had never even heard of Penn State before that game. And we were betting M&Ms, peanut M&Ms that my brother was selling for a fundraiser. And it's funny because either way, Dad was going to have to buy the box of peanuts because, you get the box of peanuts, you got to turn in the money for every box used, right? So either way, he was going to have to buy it. But whoever's team won, obviously would eat the peanut M&Ms. And so he let me stay up late and watch the whole thing, and Penn State won. Long story short, and he got to eat the peanuts, and I started paying attention to Penn State, and that was sort of how I became a fan.
That's awesome. That's really cool. It's funny because I always like asking people how they chose their school. I mean, Jimmy, he was talking with his grandfather, and he was watching him play Florida, and Florida is just destroying him. And like his grandfather's telling him, he's like, yeah, that's the team you got to play for. And he's like, yeah, Florida looks good. Like, I think I'd fit right in. And he's like, no, Penn State, they need you.
Right. That's funny because after I signed or after I committed to Penn State, and what do you think about that? As I was going through the process, I hadn't signed or committed. Now that I think about it, I was in love with Penn State and wanted the commitment to happen and wanted to play for them. And that last season before I did sign in the spring, they were playing Alabama, and they couldn't block Derek Thomas. And Derek Thomas, I want to say, had 5 sacks, maybe 6.
Yeah, Derek Thomas was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I know he has the record for 7 sacks in a game, right? I mean, that guy is unbelievable. But he was terrorizing Penn State in their backfield. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I want to go to this school, and they're getting killed right now on national TV. So I kind of feel where Jimmy was coming from. But here's a funny quick story of how the Penn State thing almost didn't happen. So I was going through the whole recruiting process, and, Penn State recruits a little differently back then to Joe Paterno. They weren't sort of as aggressive as other schools. They didn't try to show you the best that Penn State had to offer in terms of putting you in a big old hotel, feeding you all kinds of crazy food. Like when you visited Penn State, you stayed in the dorm with the players, and you ate at the training table, and they didn't try to do anything extra to make things look unrealistically great. And so that was just the mindset of how they did things. They recruited, but they didn't call every day. They didn't send letters incessantly. At least not to me. And so I took my visits and loved to visit Penn State. Had a great time at Ohio State. Had a really good time at Wake Forest and West Virginia. And it was coming down to Wake Forest because the coaching staff at Wake Forest had been at Virginia Tech and my defensive line coach in high school had played at Virginia Tech under that coach.